The overall theme of this past offseason was monster contracts. However, these contracts did not necessarily go to free agent players. This past winter, we saw teams extend stars, young phenoms, and established veterans. 22 extensions were signed by players, totaling up to over $1.8 billion. This seems to have set a new trend for the way teams tend to do business with their established stars, but is also changing the way they deal with high-end prospect talent. Teams and players are now opting out of their free agent years in exchange for guaranteed money and contract security. The most significant extension of the offseason, and in baseball history, belonged to Mike Trout. The Angels signed the best player in the game to a 12-year, $426 million extension to keep him in uniform through the 2030 season. Trout's extension marked the largest contract in sports history, and rightly so, as he has been one of the best players in the game during his time in the major leagues. Other young positional superstars to sign extensions this offseason included Nolan Arenado and Alex Bregman, with Arenado's deal being worth 8 years at $260 million, while Bregman's is set at 5 years at $100 million beginning in 2020. Both of these third basemen are cornerstones of their respective teams and will continue to be for the foreseeable future. After being traded to the Cardinals, Paul Goldschmidt will now be there for the future, signing a 5-year, $130 million extension after quietly being one of the best players in the game since 2013. Established starting pitching talent also saw big extensions signed this past offseason. Leading the way at age 36 is Justin Verlander, who signed a 2-year, $66 million extension beginning in 2020. 2018 Cy Young winners also got paid, with Blake Snell signing a 5-year, $50 million contract extension through 2023. The Mets wisely chose to lock up Jacob deGrom, signing him to a 5-year, $137 million extension with a $32 million club option for 2024. Chris Sale and Aaron Nola, both Cy Young contenders in 2018, received extensions, with Sale's being for 5 years at $145 million beginning in 2020, and Nola's being for 4 years at $45 million. Other notable starting pitchers to sign extensions this past offseason included Sonny Gray, Carlos Carrasco, Miles Mikolas, Kyle Hendricks, and Luis Severino. Gray's deal with the Reds is for 3 years and $30 million with a club option for 2023. Carrasco, Mikolas, Hendricks, and Severino all signed 4-year extensions, with Carrasco's being worth $47 million, Mikolas $68, Hendricks $55, and Severino $40 million. These young arms are all being locked up this offseason shows how teams value talented starting pitchers. Other notable players to sign extensions this past offseason included Aaron Hicks, Ryan Presley, Jose Leclerc, Jorge Polanco, Max Kepler, Whit Merrifield, Brandon Lowe, and Eloy Jimenez. Hicks' extension comes in at 7 years and $70 million, after being an under-the-radar breakout player for the Yankees. Established bullpen arms in Presley and Leclerc both signed extensions, with Presley's being 2 years at $17 million, while Leclerc signed for 4 years and $15 million. The Twins decided to lock up some of their young core, signing both Kepler and Polanco to 5-year extensions worth $26 and $35 million. After a breakout year for the Royals, Whit Merrifield was rewarded with a 4-year, $16 million extension with a 2023 club option. The more interesting extensions signed this past offseason were those of players who had little to no major league experience. Brandon Lowe of the Rays signed a 6-year, $24 million extension without having a full year of service time in the major leagues, while Eloy Jimenez of the White Sox signed a 6-year, $43 million extension having played no time in the major leagues. The extension trend is continuing into the regular season, as several teams locked up their young talent. The Red Sox signed shortstop Xander Bogaerts to a 7-year, $132 million extension. 3 teams followed the signing a day later, as the Blue Jays signed Randal Grichuk to a 4-year, $47 million deal. The Rockies extended German Marquez for 4 years at $42 million, and the Braves locked up one of their young stars in Ronald Acuna with an 8-year, $100 million extension. The most recent extension belongs to the Cubs, who signed David Bote to a 5-year, $15 million deal. All of these extensions are proof that teams are changing the way they deal with players. Lock up the talent you have, rather than trying to replace it by overpaying in the free agent market. Look for this trend to continue, as free agency continues to move slower and slower during the off-seasons to come.